Hi, welcome to Joanna's DIY Life. I am Joanna, and I am glad you are here. Today is it's Saturday, so let's get started, okay? So, what you're going to need for this project is a Pioneer Woman or whatever. I'm using Pioneer Woman because I love the florals. I love florals, okay? I just had a daughter recently visit, and she's like, Mom, you are so into flowers. What in the world? But yeah, as long as they're fake, they're fine. But anyway, you're going to need a placemat of your choice. There are different styles. I have been looking for this one forever. And then I found the fabric to match. And I was so excited, except for the fact that I had to buy 3 yards. So we're probably going to be decorating the sewing room, changing it out in maybe these florals, since I do have some blue in here. I think it will match just fine. I also have this mint print, kind of mint, so I'll tie it all in together somehow. But anyway, you're going to need this, your fabric. I'm going to use a rotary cutter and my Cricut ruler because I love it. My scissors and lightweight fusible interfacing. Okay, I cut a piece of fabric, and when you get this, it's on a bolt, so all you got to do is unroll it, and then, I measured the way I want my pocket on here, okay? I done one of these before, but I just folded it up and stitched it, and this one needs to be longer. I want it the width of the thing, or it's going to look funny. So I folded it up, and then I cut a piece right here of what I needed, and then we're going to work with this piece. Before I start cutting any fabric, okay, I'm going to take all this off, but I'll do that off camera. But before I start cutting my fabric, I did cut it a little extra so that I have room to, maneuver. We're not going to need but half of this. There's a middle crease, and that's where I'm going to cut it. We'll put that to the side for something else. I have something in mind. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my ironing board, which is behind me. And if the lighting's off, I'm sorry, because it's a very sunny and bright day today too. But I am just going to cut a piece of this interfacing. And I'm going to fuse this on. This stuff is relatively cheap, so, I'm just going to fuse this on before I start cutting or measuring or anything so that I know it's on there. You can pick this up in prepackaged forms at Walmart if you have a sewing section in there. And, like I said, it's not very expensive at all. So I'm just going to go iron this down. And when you iron it down, you'll have a bumpy side and a smooth side. You want to take your bumpy side, iron your fabric first with no steam at all. Iron it and get all the moisture out. Then take your interfacing, lay it down, and then carefully just press, 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 press. You know what would work great for this? An easy press. Just, but I didn't think of that. But anyway, until just now. So that's what I'm going to do. Make sure you do not have any extra and you iron that to your ironing surface because it will get it icky sticky. And don't y'all love my sound effects in that last part? Yeah, that was funny. Anyways, what we're going to do now is I'm going to figure out how big I want this. Okay, so I done a video when I made a laptop case with this, and my biggest dilemma was whether I wanted this beautiful blue side or this beautiful side. So I chose this beautiful side, and a lot of people was like, oh no, we like the other side. Well, it was mine, so I did what I wanted. But in this case, I found the fabric that actually matches this side, see? So win-win, okay? So I'm going to use this for my pocket, and I'm going to use this side. So what I want to do is I want to measure, first of all, how big I want my pocket. And when I sew this down, we're not going to go and cover any of this border because the border is pretty and I want it to look cohesive. So I want this about that high, okay? So I am going to measure how high that is, and that's how big I am going to cut or make this, and then add about a 1/2 inch. So I want this at 5, so I'm going to fold it up, and I'm not going to measure this part. I'm going to measure the fabric part, and I'm going to go up to where there is, where I see the 5. So make sure you keep this flat, okay, when you're doing this. Otherwise, you're going to mess it up. So there's the 5 on that end. And here's the 5 on this end. You know, it ain't got to be perfect, y'all. It's just a sewing machine thing. It's not like you're going to be wearing it anyway. So that's where we're at, right here, okay? And I hope I'm not in this camera view because that would be tragic. So I'm just going to take my hand and I'm going to make a crease right here, okay? Nothing fancy, just making a crease. So now I'm going to take it over to the ironing board and I'm going to iron this crease, okay? So now all I have to do is cut along this edge. So I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to go the edge of this fabric because this fabric is straight. You have to flip it this way to sew it. So keep that in mind. You want right sides together because we're going to be flipping this thing. Okay? So I am not pinning. All I'm going to do is take my little clips. I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to sew right along the edges. Okay? It'll probably be not the 8th, but I'll leave the needle in the middle and just sew. So before you sew anything, put this where you want it. Like, if this is just my fabric, okay? I want this fabric to end right about here. So what I want to do is I want to line one end up to where I want it. So my stitching, since I already sewed this previously, is going to go right here. So on this one, I want to end my stitching. Okay, I'm going to mark this with a pencil so you can see. I want to end my stitching. I got to get it straight. Right here. So that's where I want to stitch. Right through this line. So then you can just take your ruler, make your mark, and sew right down that line. This makes it so much easier. My brain doesn't think sometimes until I've already done something and look at it again and think, why didn't I do that? Now when you get it all sewn flat and ironed, it should fit right in there. Make sure your bottom is at your bottom. Anyway, we're going to top stitch this to this placemat. You'll want to carefully pin this in place, and you are simply going to stitch, just top stitch around this to where you have your pocket down, okay? And then what you're going to want to do, you're going to figure out, now this is your decision, okay? This is your decision, where you want your pockets. How many pockets? You know, that decision is up to you. I am going to draw erasable lines, and I'm going to do it with a pink. This is a heat thing. I want pockets for specific things, okay? So I want one for my seam ripper, and it has the rubber on it, so it'll be about this wide. So I'm just going to take my ruler. This don't have to be perfect. I'm just going to take my pen and I'm going to mark down certain spaces. I want another small one. And then I want a bigger one. And you just go through here, just, you know, putting your pockets in. That's where I'm going to put mine. So I'm going to go just top stitch this. All you got to do is make sure that your line is in the middle of your foot and put your needle in the middle when you sew these lines. Or you can keep it to the right, which is how I'm going to top stitch all of this. You want just a little line to top stitch around. Now it's done. And I've top stitched, and these are just some things that I like to keep handy for my machine, you know, my snips and whatever. And then I will just tuck this. You can actually slide it under your sewing machine, but I have to tuck mine down in a little lip because my sewing machine is down in a flatbed, you know. So I'll have to tuck it down in there, but I love this. Absolutely love this. So we're going to be making a scrap pincushion that sits beside your sewing machine. So you're going to need one fabric, one contrasting, 13 by 7 pieces, cut 2 fabric, 1 interfacing. A tip is if you iron or cut your interfacing out and then iron it on your fabric, you can just cut out around your interfacing. It makes it a little easier if you're able to see it that way. You'll need a 3 by 8 for your strap. Cut 1 interfacing, iron it down. You have your 2 fabrics there. And then your pincushion, you're going to need 2 for your pincushion, and you're going to need 2 for your base. Now you can make these the base one color, the pincushion the other. That's up to you. It don't matter. I think that's what I'm going to do, but I'm not sure. But anyways, you're going to need these pieces. So what we are going to do first is I want to sew my strap together, okay? I just want to sew this, and then I'm going to put these two together. And I'm going to sew these. Make sure you sew them all right sides together. You don't want them wrong sides, okay? And then leave an opening for turning. And on this one, these two, you want to leave an opening for stuffing, okay? Stuffing and filling. So make sure you leave an opening for turning, stuffing. Make sure, well actually, all you got to do is sew these down this way and down this way. These two will be hidden. So just sew here, and then here, and here. Okay? Now you have all your pieces sewn, and we are going to flip everything inside out, or right side out. I'm always inside out, right side out wrong. I don't know. But anyways, flip all your pieces. So I'm going to pull this back out, okay? And I am going to sew one end shut. So that way, you know, you don't have all those rags hanging. So I'm just going to pull this out and sew my end shut. Okay, now you're going to take your 2 body pieces. This is the lining. You're going to iron just a little bit down. Try to get it the same size as you iron this one down. It's a little harder with the interfacing. You may have to push it up just a little and then catch it. Or you can make a little seam thing by using a scrap piece of cardboard or a cardstock and just write your measurements on. Oh, you're this way. Write your measurements on. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm trying to move it. My light's crazy. And then you just iron it over, you know, on your line. Make sure it's on your line and then iron it over. You can iron on these, and it's awesome. But anyway, now that you got that down, you want to do that first because it'll be harder when you do it later. You're just going to put your pieces together like this, both pieces, and you're going to sew down and across the bottom. Leave the top open, down and across the bottom. Now that you have them sewn down the side and across the bottom, you'll want to take this, and we are going to make boxy little corners, but I don't want it real big at the bottom. You know, it can like go down in a V for all I care. And I'm going to mark 1 inch right here. You don't need a ruler, I guess. So when you go to the sewing machine, you pull this one and your lining over, and you just sew right across those lines you just made, and we're going to make it boxy, okay? A good way to line up box corners is to pull it and make sure that this seam is matching up with this seam. Then you know that you'll have it straight across. Now take a good pair of scissors and snip close to your stitch line. Not on the stitch line, close to your stitch line. Make sure you back stitched everything when you sewed it, or you will come apart. Of course, you probably know that by now. Nobody likes to fall apart, now do they? Okay, take your bag. They also make these bags way big, and you know, I don't need it that big at my machine. It ain't that cute. You'll have it like this, okay? So, slip it in just like it is. Make sure you get your seams. Leave this like this. Slip this inside of this bag. Everything should fit pretty nicely. Okay. Now since I want this thing coming out, say I want it back here. I'm going to stick this in here before I sew anything. Okay. So I'm going to get my lining right on this other side. You have to maneuver it. I'm just going to clamp it on the front, and I'll pin it on the other side to pin my little strappy thing in there. Okay, so sometimes when I explain things, I don't make any sense. You'll want to tuck this down in here and get it in the middle, okay? So I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to eyeball my middle because, you know, it's okay. So now you just want to pin this to this because you can't clamp it there. So we're going to stick one pin in here. Then I'm going to go top stitch all the way around this bag. Now you'll have to put it under your presser foot like this, okay, and sew it around. Don't sew your strap in there. And then I'll see you in a second. Now you can leave this like this, okay, if you want to. If you have this and you need to put it over a cabinet handle or something, you can just add a snap or a button. And then there is your thread catcher. You could put boning in here, but because I used interfacing, it's pretty stiff, so it stays out. I'm not going to have the problem of it collapsing or anything like that. I want my bottom part to have the weight. You have to weight it down. Sand would be an excellent option because it will also sharpen your needles as you go. Okay, so I'm going to take the bottom one, and I'm going to fill it full of cat litter, okay? And then I'm going to glue it shut. The easiest way is to use a funnel. You can get a funnel anywhere. And I'm going to stuff this pretty full because I want it heavy. Remember, this is your weight part, okay? So, you want to stuff it pretty good. And then I'm going to stuff this one with my fine steel wool. And that's what's going to sharpen my pins and keep them sharp like I like them. So now that you have it where you want it, and I filled mine pretty full because I'm a worrywart, okay? So I am just going to take and hold this like this. This is the easiest way that I do fabric glue. I'm going to put my thumb under where I'm going to glue and my finger. Then I'm going to spread that open. Then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to put it on here. And I'm going to smoosh this piece. Alright. Then I'm going to move down and do the same thing till I get it all sealed. Sometimes your glue will smush up in there and go further than you think it will, which is not a bad thing. So there's your bottom base, and I'm going to let that, set up. There's your bottom base right there. Looks like a little pillow. If you want to wear gloves, rubber gloves, go ahead. But I am not, and I'm just going to poke and just stuff this just like I would anything else that I stuff, but you don't want to smash this hard or you won't be able to stick a pin in there, okay? So you just do little amounts at a time and just smoosh it in and make it nice and fluffy. I mean, you want it kind of firm. You don't want it to go down and poke in your cat litter or nothing. But, and if you don't want to do this, like I said, sand, just fill in one with sand. You won't have to have two. That is an excellent option to keep your needles or pins, whatever, sharp in there. So I'm just going to keep doing this until it feels good to me. I just wanted to show you that a good way to clear up steel wool is to take a magnet, and then you can just pull all that off and trash it or throw it in your pincushion, whatever you want to do, because this sticks to magnets so well and everything else, but they'll also get in your hand, so be very careful when you use this. And I'm going to tell you another tip. If you want to glue this down, you can take 2 pieces of fabric or stitch the end, leave the whole end open, fluff one of these out, shove it in, and then glue it shut. That's an option too. I didn't want to do that. I've got this far, okay, but I want it thicker. And the steel wool is bunching up and getting hard, so I'm going to maneuver in a pocket here, and I'm going to stuff it with regular polyfill. Now that I'm done with stuffing, I have the steel wool on one side, stuffing on the bottom. I want to go through the steel wool into the stuffing. Okay, that's the way I do my pincushions, and it keeps your needles sharp as when you buy them. And again, I'm just going to seal my little opening shut with fabric hot glue. Okay, now we're fixing to assemble this little booger. So to assemble this, I want to take this and I want this as flat as possible. Okay, I don't want no bumps in there, so this is flat. I want this on top of this. This will be the pin cushion itself. I know it sticks up a little bulky, but I don't want my pins to come down and hit anything. Okay, so I'm just going to take my fabric hot glue and I am going to get this out as fast as I can. And I mainly put it in the middle because, as you've seen when I pushed it, I don't know if you saw it, but it comes up. So I'm putting my glue in the middle, and then I'm going to push my pillow down. And I'm going to put something on that to hold it until it adheres really, really good. Okay? And I'm going to leave that for a minute. And I'm going to take a lint roller and go over my hands to get that steel wool out of my fingers. I am going to put this down. And I am going to glue this right on top of here. Now, if you don't want this long, that's up to you. You can make this strap shorter to where it's right here. But some people like them to hang down, quite a ways, that to go under the thing. That's totally up to you. But I'm just going to glue this to this and then we're done. And there they are. And I am probably, since I have handles on this drawer, I'm probably going to make one of the snap ones for this side and take this one and put it over by my baby lock. But I really don't need this thing at my baby lock because it has a pull-out drawer for all my stuff. But this one doesn't because it locks in. So this is perfect. And then I have that. And I am so excited. They're so, so cute. Stay tuned for more Pioneer Woman decor or, you know, pieces coming into my sewing room because I love roses and flowers. I've always loved roses. My oldest daughter's middle name is Rose, and, you know, that's just my thing. So, yeah, it's time for a change anyway.